that means you have done that bitch for too many times too long. Lock that bitch up. Lock it up. Come with something new. Do something fucking different.
Hey y'all, so I am back with another video today, and today we are going to be discussing the villain redemption arcs, the recent rise in villain redemption arcs. Like, I don't know, I want to discuss I feel like the villain redemption arcs are being really overused, or has been really overused as of lately. And I kind of want to, I don't know, give my thoughts on it and maybe like figure out why, theorize as to why, a theory as to why maybe. Let me just start off by saying first and foremost that redemption arcs are needed, right? I understand the reason we have redemption arcs, right? But I feel like in many creators and many writers, in their plots and in their stories, whether it's shows, movies, even books, etc., right? I feel like people have been doing these redemption arcs, but like it's not in the way to where the character evolves and have a learning experience through it. It's kind of like it's like you have characters who spend the entire movie, show, book, whatever, committing vitriol, right? Committing harm against people, committing violent acts against people. And then at the end of said story, plot, book, whatever the case may be, then at the end it's like when it's time to either get your ass beat or you do the ass beating, right? Then it's like a speech of a kumbaya speech or a love and light speech at the end, either from the villain or the protagonist or the hero or whoever it is in the story who is, opposing the villain or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, I just don't understand what is going on with like this Hollywood stuff. What's the difference between a villain and an antagonist? I feel like I have to talk about the difference between a villain and an antagonist first, because it confuses a lot of y'all. Like, okay, so antagonists are the people in the story who oppose the goals and or ideas of the main character, right? And then the villain is defined by their morality and their behavior. Someone who commits acts with malicious intent, right? Because I feel like it confuses some of y'all, because some of you think that all antagonists are villains, right? And the thing is, not all antagonists are evil, right? Let me say that again, because I got it in all caps on my script. Not all antagonists are evil, but all villains are evil. See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Okay. I feel like I have to make this clear definition first, because a perfect example of how y'all confuse it is Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, right? There's constant like discourse about if Eren Yeager is a villain, right? And me personally, I'm just gonna say for me personally, I don't view Eren as a villain. I think what is confusing y'all is that y'all don't understand that Eren is essentially the protagonist and the antagonist of the story on Attack on Titan. Like, I don't think y'all think that it is possible for a protagonist to also be the antagonist within the story, and it is. I identify Eren as a protagonist and an antagonist. I don't really identify him as a villain, because he essentially did what he had to do. You know what I mean? Of course, it's heinous, it's insensitive, but he had to do it. I mean, what else was he gonna do, if we want to be for real? But that's just me personally. Y'all can fight about it in the comments. I'm not engaged in that discourse because I don't have that type of time. The point of a villain is to counter argue against the protagonist, right? Now, the thing about a villain is you're either interesting or entertaining, right? Or both. Because if you're interesting, right, people are going to be intrigued by you either because of your looks, relatability, or morality, right? Even if you're not interesting, you have to be entertaining to us as well. Are you funny? Are you charismatic? Do you have a unique way that you talk? Do you have a unique way that you present yourself? You know what I mean? That is kind of a part of how you make a villain interesting, and also the story of a villain, right? We do have villains who they have an origin story of, you know, their past and how they come up in life, right? Traumatic events that took place in like a villain's past is in congruency with how they are within their morality when they become villains, right? That is the essential part of the story, right? But the problem is we'll get the background, or sometimes we don't even get the background of the villain, and then there's immediate redemption. It's not a evolution of redemption. And then when we also discuss different types of villains as well, I feel like many people who are trying to use villains in their story, they're not really taking account on the types of villains that they are using that would be in congruence with the story. So, classic villain, you have a classic villain, which would essentially be a villain who has like no redeemable qualities, right? They do bad things simply because they're evil, right? Two-dimensional, not really much development. It doesn't really have enough development to where we can sympathize with the character, right? Favorite, which is why I listed for last, is the anti-villains, right? And anti-villains are bad guys who exhibit non-villain characteristics. They have these goals, right? They have a specific set of goals, but the way they're going about it is putting other people's in harm's way, right? Their ethics kind of closely align with the heroes, but it's on an opposing side, right? So a perfect example of this is Eric Killmonger from Black Panther. He had a counter argument that essentially made sense, right? But the way he was going about it is what made him a villain, right? You are committing heinous acts. You are unaliving people, essentially. You are committing a lot of destruction to fulfill a goal that essentially would be beneficial to Black Americans, right? But it was the way he was going about it, right? Because I see people also been debating if he's a villain. He's definitely a villain. He's just a certain type of villain, right? Another example of an anti-villain is my fave, Thanos. Right? Thanos has an argument, right? He believes unaliving half of the universe will stabilize it and lead to prosperity, right? We understand, we see where you're coming from, but that is not, you know what I mean? It's not really, it's not making any sense, right? So that's like an example, right? But the thing is, I see a lot of like people creating these redemption arcs, but it's just not being done well. It's not being done well because they will choose and I'm talking about types of redemption arc, types of villains, because I see people using certain types of villains that either have no redeemable qualities or they're not developed enough for a redemption arc. right? Because you can't sit and give me a classic villain, right? And you give me a classic villain, which is a villain that has no redeemable qualities, and you did not develop them enough, and then just give them a redemption arc. You see what I'm saying? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? If you have an anti-villain, and if you develop that anti-villain enough, maybe I can sympathize as the audience, as the reader, whatever I'm consuming. Maybe I can sympathize with that, but I can't. Because what am I supposed to do? You see what I'm saying? Rise of these redemption arcs. Because Marvel, come to the front. Disney, come to the front. Let's have a quick chat. Because it's mainly been Disney and Marvel specifically that has been doing these things, and like I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, because watching Thor, Love and Thunder, and then doing my research on Gore the God Butcher, and remembering I did a review on that as well, and I also did a review on Multiverse Madness, which is, I'm also going to talk about that as well. But watching Thor, Love and Thunder, first of all, that movie was really unserious. It could have been more serious, especially with the villain that was in it. And I feel like y'all did not pour into Gore as much as y'all should have or could have, because it was just not like as a villain, like, why are y'all giving villains redemption within the first movie? Like, I don't know if it's something that I'm missing, but like, why is it that villains are getting redemption arcs within the first movie? I don't understand what that is, because we didn't even get that much of Gore's backstory. We only got the first, I don't even want to say 20 minutes in the beginning of Thor Love and Thunder. It was really like 15? I don't even want to say that. 10? Like, it was just that little bit of the beginning, right? And then going towards the end, it was like, oh, he got a little redemption. It's like, oh, like, you just need love. Can you take care of my daughter? It's like, what? Like, what was that? Like, more damage. He could have did more damage, number one. And not only that, like, I don't know if it was lazy writing. Like, I feel like, I don't know. Because at this point, I feel like these redemption arcs is just lazy writing for y'all. Like y'all don't be wanting to develop the character, the villain. So you feel like you could just throw in a redemption arc, and then it's just, because there's nothing wrong with a redemption arc. That's not the problem. The problem is you're just not executing it well. So with like Multiverse of Madness and Wanda, right? Wanda, okay. I'm not saying Wanda doesn't really, well, do she really need redemption? Like, I really, like, she's done. Like, she's literally traumatized groups of people and basically harmed groups of people. And then after she does it, it's kind of like she disappears. And then it's like, oh, my bad. And then she disappears. It's like, I just feel like she works better as a villain. Like, I don't know, like, Disney has this thing where they have to place people who are essentially bad. Like, even with the recent movie I watched, Hocus Pocus 2, in the end of the movie, first of all, that movie was not good. I reviewed it. In the end of the movie, Winnie was basically like, oh, can you bring back my sisters? Can you bring back my sisters? I give up my magic. I guess I reap what I sow. It's like, you've literally been like sucking the soul out of children for centuries. And like, am I supposed to feel bad that you got your sisters taken away from you? Like, you've literally been like causing chaos centuries on end. Taking the souls of children centuries on end. Like, literally messing up people's time to cross over, and you're literally, and I'm supposed to care that you got your sisters taken away from you. Like, I don't know what Disney got going on, but it's getting real tired. Like, I don't understand, like, what is these, like, reading, like, what is the, like, necessary need to try and redeem someone who is, like, who really don't really have any redeemable qualities, developed enough to have redemptions. You see what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing? The purpose of a redemption arc is a part of the story where the characters they make up for the mistakes they made in the past, and they make a gradual evolutionary effort to better themselves and their actions throughout the said story, said film, whatever the case may be, for us to relate to it. Right? We all know that when it comes to redeeming ourselves, when it comes to bettering ourselves as human beings, that is not linear. That is not linear. And my problem is that a lot of these directors or writers, whoever are in charge of these writings of the redemption arcs, they make it so linear, and as if it's just like a light switch, and as if it's just a quick thing, right? Especially when it comes to a character that's not even developed enough for it. It's kind of like, oh, we got a little piece of backstory. You do all these heinous ass crimes, then it's like, oh, here's your redemption. It's like, no, that's what how am I, as the audience, as the reader, as whatever I am, whatever I'm consuming, how am I supposed to take this character serious when it comes to that, when I did not get any development from them? It's just, as of lately, the things I've been ingesting, it's just not being done well. It's not being done well. It's either linear, it happens really quick, and it just seems really lazy to me. Like, it just seems lazy to me. Like, why are characters being redeemed within the first season? Why are characters being redeemed within the first book? Why are characters being redeemed within the first movie? Right? I don't have no problem with redemption arcs. I love redemption arcs. Like, redemption arcs are essential to characters. But y'all, you're not, if you're not gonna do it well, let them fuck shit up. That's my point. If you're not gonna do it well, let them fuck shit up. And you know what? All villains even need redemption arcs. Not all villains need redemption arcs. And that's also my point as well. I love a good redemption arc, right? But I also do understand that not all villains need redemption arcs. Not all villains even deserve redemption arcs. That's my point, because you're not even developing the character to where we would be able to sympathize and empathize with them to get a redemption arc. So they don't deserve one, right? Let them just be the classic villain who fucks shit up and just leave it at that, right? Don't be trying to and ease some type of sympathy card in there. I don't want to see it anymore. Like, either you're gonna do it and you're gonna do it well, or you're not gonna do it at all. That's just my point. My point is, do it well or don't do it at all, because it's becoming real late. It's becoming real late. I'm tired of reading it in the books. I'm tired of watching it in the TV shows. I'm sick of seeing it not being done well. Like, even with like anime, right? Form of example. Did Orochimaru really need to be redeemed? Did Orochimaru really need to be redeemed? Did he really need to be redeemed? Can we be for real? Can we be for real? Like, characters just need to come in, cause conflict, and do just that. Not all characters need to be redeemed. And that's what I think is confusing, y'all. Like, even with some of the characters y'all choose to like use in y'all stories, like, yeah, but if you want to redeem them, you're gonna have to develop them more. Because if they're not developed, we don't want to see no redemption. Because it's not even gonna make sense within the plot of the story anyway. Called Fandom Puritanism, and I guess it is a spin on fandoms having purity culture, which I was not aware of, so I had to do my research on it. Guys, so I lost that clip. I'm a little upset about it, but oh well. Show must go on, right? Life of a YouTuber. So, I read some articles about fandom puritanism, and to sum it up, so it's basically call out culture towards animators and other fans that has been taken to extremes, and they have concerns ranging from like the representation within certain shows, I guess probably because how they look, and also sexual misconduct. You have shows like Steven Universe that has LGBT representation, and then you have other shows getting backlash like She-Ra for the redesign of a particular character. Fans of a show on Disney Channel called Amphibia have harassed the show's creative staff, accusing them of supporting child abuse because of a particular drawing that has been depicted within the show. So I feel like maybe this plays a part into why certain like shows and writers, especially within Disney, right? Because Disney is supposed to be family friendly, right? I think that is why many people are now trying to water down and kind of deviate from it, presumably so has been written to be quote unquote bad, has been written to be, dark, have dark elements, dark characteristics within the story, things of that sort. I think they're trying to deviate from that, try to depict, oh, this person did do this bad thing, but they're now good. You know what I mean? They're trying to water it down and give a depiction of everything is love, right? In a world where most people are a part of Christianity, I feel like that plays a part into it as well, because everything is ungodly, right? I think that plays a part as to why many villains are now getting redeemed, even though it doesn't even serve the plot. So I think that's kind of like my theory. Like, I think that this fandom puritanism is falling into Hollywood. Well, yeah, it's falling into Hollywood. Like, I just want shit to make sense, and I also want villains to be villains. Like, I understand the redemption arc and stuff, but like, can villains just be villains? Can villains just be villains? Can villains just be villains? Not everybody need a redemption arc. You're gonna do a redemption arc well. Zuko from the Avatar: The Last Airbender is the way to do it. Okay, his path as a character was not straight to good, right? Zuko has one of the best written redemption arcs because he had hiccups, right? He had points where he went back on his word, right? When he even portrayed his uncle, right, and went back with Azula, right? He had like a progress. He had evolution throughout the show when it came to his redemption. And also when it comes to his redemption, we can also learn from it. Like, the point of his redemption is for us to learn identity and taking on your own identity and not taking on what somebody else has put onto you, because we know essentially Zuko, he had an abusive father. All he wanted really was his father's blessing, right? He just wanted love and attention from his father. So he did the necessary things he thought would get that. Also, as a character, he wasn't entitled for forgiveness, right? Because of his abusive father and all this stuff, right? He did not make that the part of like where he was entitled for forgiveness, right? As a character, he understood because that he was a part of the Fire Nation. He understood that people would view him a certain way. Even when he tried to turn himself around, he knew and understood that he would have to take responsibility for his actions, right? There was no like, oh, y'all have to forgive me because I was just abused and I was just brainwashed. People would not be fucking with him. That he knew they would not be messing with him like that because of his past, right? But he still took the necessary precautions to do the right thing, right? And even with watching Avatar, it makes you want to root for Zuko, right? Even when he had his little hiccups, right? It makes you want to root for him and like, yeah, Zuko, do the right thing, help Avatar and them defeat all the, like, it was that, right? If you're gonna do a redemption arc, have it developed, right? Have it developed. Have it to where we can learn something from this, learn something from the character, learn something from the story, from the plot, right? Not just some thrown together ass shit. Because otherwise, you could just leave villains to be villains. Let villains be. Some villains are just terrible people. Like, that's what I want y'all to understand. Some villains are just nasty. Some people are just nasty and evil. Some people are just nasty and evil and don't need any redemption. That's also a thing too. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please give the video a like and also comment down below if you have any thoughts on villain redemption arcs and anything of that sort. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.